All right, we have a packed house here today for the ChannelVision podcast. Today we're speaking with Bicom Systems, and specifically we have the deployment and training team coordinator. Her name is Azra. What's going on today, Azra?
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you, and I'm excited to talk about Geo Redundancy and Bicom Systems. We also have a pair of partners who are going to be joining us in a little while from Kinetic VoIP. We have the CEO, Greg Bryant, as well as network engineer Tom Moore. We'll get to you guys shortly. But Azra, let's start with you. Could you talk a little bit about SERVERware and how it stands out compared to other virtualization platforms?
Certainly. So we're all familiar with the concept and benefits of virtualization nowadays. And today it's the foundation of cloud computing. It allows you to make the most out of the available hardware, but also to increase flexibility, scalability, and resilience. On top of that all, it of course lowers the costs. SERVERware is a virtualization platform that provides and delivers a wide range of IP services and applications, redundancy, high availability, and fault tolerance. What makes SERVERware stand out in the industry is the fact that it is the only platform specifically designed for hosting telephony and telecommunications in the cloud. SERVERware itself is a type of a hypervisor, which allows users to create virtual private servers, or VPSs in short, divide resources to those virtual machines, monitor the resource usage, and much, much more. Monitoring is not only possible for the VPSs, and through SERVERware, users are also able to monitor the status and the resource usage of their servers as well, track logs, and receive notifications should any issues arise or if any spikes occur, which also allows for fast response in case of any major hardware failures or similar issues. SERVERware is available in 3 different editions: standalone, mirror, and cluster. It's important to mention that each edition provides different levels of redundancy. As we go through the 3 SERVERware editions, the reliability of the platform itself improves until we reach the maximum level of redundancy in the cluster edition. Now, thanks to support for many complex technologies such as ZFS, NVMe over TCP, and others, SERVERware allows expanding the storage pool simply by adding more disks into the pool, monitoring storage health, creating clones of virtual instances, and many other things. It's suitable for resellers as well, due to SERVERware's concept of domains, which allows SERVERware administrators to create isolated spaces for their customers to call their own.
All right. And you mentioned failure, which I know can be a huge issue sometimes with downtime and things like that, whether natural or otherwise. Would you be able to talk a little bit about geo redundancy and what that is specifically?
Of course. Well, we can safely say that we live in a dynamic world where we are facing various global changes and challenges almost on a daily basis. In the world of technology, everything is advancing with high speed, and with that, the needs and expectations of users rise for a stable platform, continuity of services, redundancy, and similar solutions. Geo redundancy, as the name itself suggests, provides a redundant geographical disaster recovery solution to ensure resiliency against any reason that would cause an outage. For example, GR has shown to be useful to our customers when doing any form of maintenance on their primary site. They are able to quickly move their PBXware instances to their GR locations and have them running there while the maintenance is being performed. Once done, they can simply move their instances back to the primary site with just a few clicks. Geo redundancy is usually defined as a safety net against any natural disasters, but it's also being used as a quick way to move the services to a different location in case of an emergency maintenance, hardware or software outages, just like I mentioned previously, and similar examples. Sudden downtime can be harmful to any type of business, but especially in the world of voice over IP, where the service continuity and uptime are of crucial importance. Little to no downtime is not considered a luxury today. It's something that the customers expect, and naturally a need for implementing geo redundancy occurred, along with the possibility of distributing the critical data and services across multiple geographical locations to ensure their high availability. Geo redundancy in SERVErware has been officially released with version 4.1, and the current latest version is 4.3. From the official release of the GR all up to the latest 4.3 version, we have added a lot of supporting features to the geo redundancy itself, which can be thought of as add-ons or upgrades to the GR. That naturally improves the quality of experience of the users themselves and allows for a quicker takeover, continuous delivery of services with little to no downtime.
And how is geo redundancy implemented within SERVERware?
In simple terms, geo redundancy in SERVERware is based on data redundancy and sending the copies of data to the remote site. In SERVERware, GR uses ZFS snapshots to perform VPS volume data sync between the production and the GR location. Two key terms in SERVERware GR are replications and takeover. Replication is a process of sending a copy for each piece of data to the storage on a remote location. Essentially, a ZFS snapshot of a virtual instance will be created, and that snapshot is then sent and stored in the GR storage pool on the GR site. It's important to mention that these replications are not real-time replications, which means that the data is not replicated to the GR site as the instance generates it or simultaneously. They are actually scheduled to sync the changes in the time period defined by the administrator. Administrators can define their instances to be replicated every minute or every 5 minutes or even hourly and similar. And that provides the flexibility to the users to select those periods of time by themselves to best fit their needs. The minimum time period in which the replications can be done is 1 minute, while the maximum is 24 hours, and the administrator is in full control of this. The first replication which is done is a full replication, and after that, only incremental replications are done, during which only the changes between the replication cycles are replicated and synced over to the GR site. Once the instance is replicated and the data of the instance is available on the GR site, users can then proceed and take over the instance. Takeover is a process of restoring the services on the GR site, or in other words, moving the instances and starting them on the GR site. Given that the replication or a copy of a VPS is stored on the GR site locally inside a dataset dedicated for storing incoming replications, the takeover process is a quick process, and there's no need to perform a time-consuming copy of a replicated instance volume. A quick ZFS clone is enough. It's important to mention that the users are able to specify the recovery point of the VPS which will be used for the takeover. Also, apart from taking over individual VPSs, SERVErware also provides a bulk takeover, which allows users to create a template or a queue of instances, which will then be taken over in the order in which they were added to the queue. The instance will then be running on the GR site, and the users can replicate the instance back to their primary site and so on. In a sense, a bidirectional replication can be configured between the sites using SERVErware Geo Redundancy, meaning that the instances from the primary site will be replicated to the GR site, and the instances from the GR site can be replicated to the primary site. As I mentioned previously, other than the replications and takeover, there are additional features that make the process of moving the instances between the sites easier and more efficient for the administrators and, of course, of their end users. Some of them are Site Monitor and DNS SRV. From SERVErware 4.2, we have implemented an integrated DNS server so that SERVErware can be configured as authoritative server for a DNS zone. There are many benefits with this feature implemented. For example, VPS can change IP or subnet and remain accessible via domain name with no additional configuration changes. Another example of the DNS SRV in SERVERware is having the possibility of configuring NAPTR or SRV DNS resource records for each VPS. This provides a service discovery mechanism for the clients supporting this feature, including most of the UADs as well as Glocom, of course. Those clients using the DNS SRV feature in SERVERware will be able to effectively find a PBX service if the service has been moved to another IP address or to another geolocation, meaning that this feature can easily be combined with geo redundancy for an even more effective takeover processes.
Wow, there's definitely a lot there for sure. Let me ask you this. What makes geo redundancy different from just traditional backup?
Although backup and GR sound similar, and both are providing an additional layer of security, so to say, their functionalities are different. SERVErware backup feature requires a dedicated server with a bunch of disks to be used as storage for storing the backups of the virtual instances running on SERVErware. Backup feature in SERVErware can be considered as a safeguard against issues with the virtual instances themselves. For example, a user makes a change in their PBXware, which makes the entire system unusable. With the backup feature, they can easily restore their instances from a restore point from the backup server. Backup server cannot run the virtual instances. Its purpose is to store the backups of the virtual instances running on SERVErware. Considering the fact that the backup server itself cannot run the virtual instances, we can safely say that the backup server is a solution in case of a failure of virtual instances. However, if the entire SERVErware site fails for any reason, the solution for that scenario would be the geo redundancy, as the users will then be able to move all of their virtual instances to the GR site. In the meantime, they can work on recovering their primary site. Both backup and geo redundancy are extremely useful and recommended, as they provide additional level of data protection that will ensure that even software and file system problems do not leave end users severely affected. And although they are similar, we can say that they work on different levels and keep the system safe from major data losses, but only from different aspects.
Oh, that's interesting. Does geo redundancy allow for, let's say, automatic failover?
When it comes to the takeover, users have the option to manually take over individual virtual instances, but also configure a bulk takeover to be done, which means that multiple virtual instances will be in a queue for a takeover. With this bulk takeover feature, users can create takeover templates. In other words, define which virtual instances will be taken over, their alternate IP addresses that will be assigned once the instances are running on the GR side, their names, and similar. All of these parameters can be defined and saved in a template for the bulk takeover. If multiple instances are to be taken over, then these bulk takeover templates will save the users a lot of time instead of initiating a takeover action for individual virtual instances. With the site monitor feature, users can configure automatic takeover. Site monitoring allows users to configure monitoring of their remote sites by creating a set of automated tests that will continuously monitor and check whether the remote site is responding or not. Using those automated tests, users can create a list of actions that will be executed in case a test fails. And there are various different types of tests that can be performed, such as ICMP test, HTTP, TCP, or UDP tests. For example, users can create a test on the GR site to perform ICMP tests on the primary site. If the test fails, the GR site will automatically start the takeover process, ensuring that the services encounter minimum disruption. These tests within the site monitor are versatile, and they allow users to take multiple factors into account, such as network outage on the GR site, which could possibly trigger an unwanted takeover due to the fact that the GR site cannot reach the primary site. To avoid this scenario, it's possible to invert results within tests. Inverting a test means that a negative, for example, failed ping, will count as a successful one. Users have the ability to pick whether they want a takeover to be triggered for these failed tests or an alarm notification to be sent to the administrator. And that again depends on the users themselves. If the takeover trigger is chosen, then the users will be able to define which takeover template they wish to use in this scenario.
Well, it sounds like there's definitely a lot of factors going on there. What are there any difficulties or risks involved with implementing GR?
Keeping in mind all of the GR benefits that I have mentioned previously, I would say that there are no risks associated with the implementation of the Geo Redundancy. Geo Redundancy can only bring benefits to the user, as its primary purpose is disaster recovery and continuity of services. Users implementing the GR need to keep in mind the resource usage of the primary site in order to have enough hardware and processing resources on the GR site to run their instances in case of a takeover. And this is a factor that might come with some difficulties in the implementation itself. Given that the virtual instances are using a specific amount of storage resources, RAM, they are generating calls and similar, if a takeover is done, the GR site must have a sufficient amount of those resources to run these virtual instances. Users who opt for implementing GR site will be working with our team of engineers who will inspect their primary site and, based on the current resource usage and other important factors, provide suggestions for the amount of hardware resources, hardware components, and similar for their GR site. This is called a staging process, which is completed before the actual implementation of the Geo Redundancy to ensure the user will have enough resources for replications, takeover, or in other words, implementation of Geo Redundancy.
Burning question, I'm sure, on a lot of people's minds, Azra. What serverware editions support Geo Redundancy?
As previously mentioned, SERVERware comes in 3 different editions: standalone, mirror, and cluster. Each edition of SERVERware can be configured to be a GR site, but the edition that the users will go with depends on their primary site or the amount of virtual instances that they plan to replicate and take over. For example, if the user is running 60 virtual instances, a lot of concurrent calls are generated, a lot of storage usage, transcoding, and similar, the considered edition for the GR site should be the cluster edition, considering the fact that it provides much more processing power than the standalone edition, for example. The end goal of implementing Geo Redundancy is to be able to move the services and virtual machines easily to the other geographical location in case of a disaster. But in order for the GR to be effective, users need to take into account the hardware resources of the GR site and ensure they are sufficient for running all of their instances. It's important to mention that the GR site does not only have to be used as a site for storing the replications of the virtual instances and waiting for a takeover. Users can create new virtual instances on the GR site and with that further expand their business. This is also discussed and planned during the staging process that I have mentioned previously, and the primary purpose of these staging processes is to ensure that the users are provided with the optimal solution for their business needs.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Azra. And we're going to turn things now to the partners at Kinetic VoIP. We have Greg, Bryant, and Tom Moore. Greg, I guess I'll start with you. First of all, tell us a little bit about Kinetic VoIP and about yourself as well.
Okay. A little bit about myself. I've been in the telecommunications industry for probably too long, going back around the breakup of AT&T and Ma Bell, mainly in the equipment marketplace. You know, we were equipment providers, PBX equipment providers for the SMB marketplace. This business came about because of the breakup and the ability for customers to now not rent their telecommunications equipment, but purchase it. With that being said, I've remained in this industry for a little over 30 years now and have watched many changes take place and tried to go with most of these changes. And this is what brought us to Kinetic VoIP, which we founded about, I'd say, 2008. And Kinetic VoIP was founded due to the fact that voice over IP started becoming another entity in the telecommunications industry. We decided to rather sell equipment, which was becoming a little more difficult due to the breakout of the internet and the availability of buying equipment wholesale. It took us to a place where we decided that maybe becoming a voice over IP provider would be a better position to look at. And that's where Kinetic VoIP started, as just an idea to provide an already in place customer base with the ability to switch them out from being a equipment-based customer to more of a line or SIP trunk based type customer with the availability of doing some hosted telephones.
Okay, great. So what sort of problems has Geo Redundancy helped you guys to solve? Could you talk about some of its benefits, basically?
So as Azra mentioned in her previous statements there, that it provides reliability against facilities failures and other types of events that might happen that are unforeseen. In addition, it also helps to route around carrier issues, which we've had to do a time or two, where a carrier in a facility had a problem and we switched over from the primary site over to the backup site without issues. So it insulated us from failures that occurred that were out of our control.
Okay, fantastic. How has Geo Redundancy helped to position Kinetic VoIP specifically in the market?
It's helped position us in the market by way of providing a platform to our end users, our customers, with reliability, giving them, I guess, the peace of mind of knowing that we are not tied to just one facility, where if there's a problem with the facility or the equipment in that facility, that they would have absolutely no service. So this gave us the opportunity to go after businesses that require this type of redundancy, to where we might not be able to provide services to governmental agencies and other types of businesses that just require this type of redundancy.
Would you be able to talk about some of the reasons maybe why every service provider should consider this solution?
I guess the main reason that all service providers should consider this solution is to provide the maximum uptime to their customer base, and the ability, as Azra mentioned earlier, to maintain the infrastructure and equipment in a way where there are no problems with downtime. In today's times, I think that any company out there that does not have some type of geo-redundant solution is going to fall behind in this marketplace.
Also, it's also pretty cost effective considering the other competitors that are out there in the marketplace.
Well, those are definitely some great reasons to check it out. Now, if people want more information on Kinetic VoIP and a lot of the great stuff that you guys are doing, where can they go online?
Well, they can go to our website at www.kineticvoip.com. They could also call our offices 24/7 at 561-784-2909. We're always available to help provide solutions to all types of customers, multi-location customers, governmental agencies. We deal a lot in the medical arena with doctor's office, dentist offices, surgery centers, companies that really do require the maximum uptime.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Greg, for the time today. It's really been illuminating.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having us.
And Tom as well. Thank you so much, man.
Sure, anytime.
All right, so quite a few websites for you guys to visit here today. Don't forget bicomsystems.com. And by the way, if you have any sales inquiries, don't forget to also, you can email sales@bicomsystems.com. Don't forget to check out Kinetic VoIP. And of course, don't forget to visit channelvisionmag.com, where you can check out all the great CVTVs and podcasts and webinars and lots of great on-demand content right there on the website, channelvisionmag.com. On behalf of Kinetic VoIP, Bicom Systems, and ChannelVision magazine, this is Brady Hicks. Everybody take care.